All right, good morning. In the interest of and respecting your time, we're going to get started. I would ask if you'd like to move up to some of the seats up in the front. I'd appreciate that. First of all, I'm Ronald Haddad, Chief of Police for the City of Dearborn. I want to welcome all of you. I want to start out with a special thank you to all of our regional partners on this case that I'm going to explain in a few minutes. Our community was very instrumental in calling in all sorts of suspicious tips, and I couldn't be any more grateful to the media. And I know that we all have deadlines, and oftentimes our deadlines don't match up, but we tried to give you whatever information we could. And in those times when you were quite deliberate, inquisitive, and out in front of a lot of the information, when we thought it was harmful to the investigation, you very professionally withheld that information and let us do our job. So I'm very grateful to the media. I'm very grateful to our mayor who's here this morning. We kind of get ourselves in trouble, and every time we kind of get backed into a corner, I need some real heavy lifting regionally or in our city, I call the mayor at the damnedest time, and he always comes through. So he's back from L.A. where he's had his first grandson. Congratulations, Mayor. I know we have some exciting news today, but not nearly as exciting as that. For the community members, I'm going to try to just walk us through this. You're going to be given full packages that'll make more sense than I will up here. And if there's any questions for any of our people, you can ask them individually later. And that includes our task force members. I'm going to introduce them later as well. But currently in our city, crime is down 5.4%. And we often tell you about things that drive our crime. And what's driven our crime in our city is larceny from autos. And if you look down through the list I provided, beats 1 through 8, and you look at the numbers under larceny from auto, you can see that they are really driving our crime in the city. In spite of that, the men and women here and the community have really worked hard to cut down crime, and incrementally you can see that crime is on the downslide for the whole year. I want to start by talking about a subject for larceny, and I'm not going to mention any of their names. I won't glorify them up here, but we had a gentleman who was a serial thief in the region. He hit our Bar Louie a couple of times, and what he was doing was stealing high-end tables and chairs. He hit one in our city and got away with it. Over Christmas, he was hitting all the retailing outlets around the region. And most recently, one of our officers figured out the pattern and concealed himself in the area of a place where he thought the guy may come back. We did have a fair description of his vehicle. The officer hid in the dark, put himself at risk, and ultimately saw a truck pull up where he ultimately caused the subject to be arrested while he was stealing $20,000 worth of tables and chairs. This guy was really bad for business in our West End, and he's off the streets currently. On August 27th, again in the early hours, we had a citizen report 2 suspicious men on bicycles checking cars. She notified the officers, and in very short order, the officers responded and were able to apprehend this person, these people. And again, this is repetitive, but we found out that they were responsible for many crimes in our city and many crimes in the region. Crime certainly knows no borders. On the 29th of August, again in the wee hours, a citizen calls the police, reports 2 guys in a car, and you know the rest of the story. These guys were responsible for a string of larcenies from vehicles and thefts in the entire region here, particularly our city. And I couldn't be prouder of our citizens that report crime on a regular basis, and the mayor and I, at a later time, will get them together and properly recognize them. On August 30th, again late night, in the area of Gulfview and Ford Road, officers picked up on a subject who had hit several unlocked cars. Subject went to court the following morning, pled guilty, and he's doing 60 days in court as we speak. September 1, a resident calls, and again, 2 guys entered her unlocked car. She gave a good description. Our quick response, officers locked down the area, and we have 2 subjects who are responsible for larcenies throughout our region, charged with felony larceny. And every one of these cases, the subjects hit our entire region, and in most cases, enter through unlocked cars. And that's why we promote Lock It or Lose It very heavily here. And the state last year adopted Lock It or Lose It as a statewide program because they found value in it. And before I go any further, for the community members here, let me tell you that in spite of all these high-profile cases, our officers, the men and women here, work very hard. Last week, while we did all of this work, they did all of the work. I tried not to get in their way. We had Labor Day events. We had increased shopping at the shopping districts. And we covered our schools for the first full week to make sure that every person going to school, teachers, students, and parents had a very safe trip. And student safety will always remain our top priority. And before I go any further also, I'd be remiss if I didn't congratulate Ron Bex, Lieutenant. Where are you? Stand up, don't be shy. And all the great men and women that work in our Detective Bureau, stand up, stand up. That was too short, stand up. And, you know, we get literally hundreds of reports every week, and in spite of these high-profile cases, there's other reports and other cases that they have to prosecute through the courts. And I can't say enough. And we can give all our detectives a hand. I mean, they got a very heavy load. And I'm very proud of your leadership, Lieutenant Beggs. Very proud of what you do there. And I guess the reason that we're most here is because there was a lot of interest in a serial burglar and rapist last couple of weeks. And let me give you some background on this. Back in July of 2015, here in the city, we had a string of burglaries at our homes, businesses, garages, etc. And at that time, we closed in on two groups. One was a group of teenagers, 15 of them, and I'm glad the prosecutor's here because I called her on a Saturday. I said, we've identified these 15 gang members that are hitting our whole region for burglaries, and she assigned a prosecutor to manage all those cases on a Saturday, so I'm grateful to her for that. Then the second group was a mother and son team with a little help from their stepfather that was breaking into homes in our 8 beat, which is the far west end. So once we closed those cases, I remember vividly, I had the detectives in my office, and I said, great, maybe for a minute we won't have any beanies in the West End. And then Captain Levins, who's since retired, but he did a masterful job, real long face, arms folded like this, made my chest hurt. I said, what's the matter, Bill? He says, there's a couple out there don't fit these patterns, but they happened about the same time. And he says, I think there's someone else out there. So much for being elated about the two groups we just caught. We looked further at those. We checked with our regional partners, and it certainly appeared that we had another serial burglar slash rapist on our hands. I can't go into the other jurisdictions' cases, nor will I give any evidentiary information today, but let me tell you that currently, at a minimum, we have about 35 cases in our region that we suspect, and I want to underscore suspect, this person is responsible for. In the city of Dearborn, we have concluded that there's 3 cases that involve this individual. And that's all I'm going to say about those cases for the time being. On November 17th, Michigan State Police, I couldn't be more grateful to them. They did some wonderful work on matching some DNAs from the region, and we got an early morning, 1 a.m. call saying, are you sitting up? I said, barely. They said, all the checks that you put in all match up to one guy. So that's all we knew. Going forward, I can tell you that our task force was put together on the 17th of November, 2015. It included, obviously, our department, Michigan State Police, our Fusion Center, FBI, Dearborn Heights, Allen Park, Redford, Inkster, Garden City, MDOC, and the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. And I already gave you the information about the 34 cases or so with 3 in our city. And among the 3, there was some DNA evidence, but I won't get into that as well. I can't tell you what this task force has done. Painstakingly, they went out and followed up with every known victim in all of these areas. They completed victimology reports. They're taking in all kind of digital evidence on phone numbers, dumping phone records, towers, videos, computer mapping on crime, and a whole lot more. The FBI behavioral scientists, the analysts, they make my brains hurt. These guys are so smart, and these ladies, they refer to this person as a power reassurance rapist. I want to tell our citizens and our community alike that there's no more power he holds over the people, and I can assure you that he'll be in jail for a long time. Okay, go ahead. I feel good about it. You know, I mentioned that during this time we had not many, but a fair amount of suspects that came to our attention for a number of reasons. And every time we looked at them, it just didn't pan out. We finally got a break in the case where somebody in another city had a video of somebody that went into a backyard. And although it didn't fit the characteristics of all the B&Es and the assaults that we have had, based on our full cooperation, we got that video and we went public with it. And I remember on Labor Day, I called again Lieutenant Beggs down to my office and I said, did anybody identify this person in a video? He says, no, you might have to call in some markers with the media, sorry media, and maybe they'll run it again with a personal appeal. And I said, okay, we'll be back Tuesday and we'll figure out the best way to do that, check with all our regional task force partners and make sure that that's the right thing to do. Luckily, on Tuesday afternoon, they come in very excited, said we got a description, a name, a potential guy that was seen in that video. I didn't hold out that it would be the guy. God knows we've had a few guys we've looked at. But as it turned out, our state police lab did a wonderful job, and within a few hours, about 8, they called us and said, you got your guy. So for that, I can say to this community and to our members that this particular nightmare that has plagued our community and our region for a long time is over. I can tell you that I couldn't be prouder of the task force members here. I mentioned how proud I am of our department and the community. I think that cases like this certainly give us validation for a consolidated dispatch and for the sharing of information from the intelligence community, which will add additional layers that we might discern some crimes that go on for a real long time. With that, I'm going to conclude. Does anyone up here want to say anything? Or Mayor? Okay, we'll have the mayor say a couple of words, or as many words as the mayor wants. He's the boss. And then we'll open it up to limited questions, and then after we're done, I can tell you that everybody here, including Lieutenant Beggs, will answer any questions individually if you'd like to have that as well. But again, I can't be happier, and thank you for the media, thank you for the community, thank you for our task force. Our Mayor, John B. O'Reilly, Jr., thank you.
I just wanted to, thank you, Chief. I just want to make it clear, I mean, this is really important when we look at potentially over 100 victims who were assaulted and raped, that over a 7-year period. That's extraordinary. And the thing is, what we have to keep reminding ourselves and everyone is that crime doesn't care about borders. They don't care about where this city starts and that city is, or township, or any other thing. They have a notion that they can do something and get away with it, and we have to be sure that we're putting all our resources to prevent them from succeeding in what they're trying to do. So these are examples, and I'm really proud of our department because we partner with everyone. We have so many great partners at the table today. Law enforcement gets it. In our region, law enforcement comes together time and time again without borders. And there's things like Operation Blue Light, and if you're not familiar with it, but it started with just a couple of communities, and now I think it's well over 300. 71, sir. 71 different departments have participated at the same time together to get criminals off the street. And this is the kind of thing that will make the difference. We have to make sure that we're supporting each other, that we're aware of, and saying we're not in isolation, we're all in this together. Crime doesn't care about boundaries. And that's the message we have here, and we hope that everyone will keep that in mind, because we have so many great results, and this was done because we had partnerships, including our wonderful prosecutor, Kim Worthy, who, of course, we wouldn't have the rape kits. I mean, if they didn't have the rape kits, then we couldn't get the DNA, and it's a critical part of the evidence. And so it's really the fact that we need to make sure that everybody is on board with the idea that crossing borders and working together is in everybody's best interest. And sometimes I get a little pushback. Well, why are we getting involved here? Or why are we getting involved there? It's because overall, we're out to get the criminals off the street and create safety. And to do that, we have to do it collectively. We have to do it together. And our department is amazing to me. I can't believe how talented they are and how dedicated they are. And we've, from the time I hired Chief Haddad till now, we've seen crime go down substantially, and we keep at that. But we've also seen these partnerships pay off in big ways. So I just want everybody to understand, you know, crime needs us all pulling in the same direction, all of us with the same ambitions, and it doesn't matter who's doing what, as long as the end is that we have a safe community for everyone. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. With that, we'll take a couple of questions. Go ahead, Amy. Well, yeah, you know, that includes all family members as well that were impacted by that crime. And we know for a fact that we've laid out 5 years absolutely from beginning to end, and we're starting to look beyond that time as well. So let's just stick with the 34, 35 for now, and hopefully that will be the case, but we suspect there's more. Victims, family members that were traumatized.
Well, one of the things is, for example, we didn't have a rape in Dearborn, but we had 3 incidents where he violated
their home and their husbands.
Allegedly, I'm sorry, yes, and that's all, you know, well, not he, whoever it was. Right. Somebody violated their homes. It did not end up being rapes in those cases, but they certainly, that's still part of that whole idea of someone who's had a tremendous impact on a lot of people.
So the 35 is specifically actual rapes versus...
No, there are 35 cases we're looking at. And let me just emphasize that with this particular subject, his run is done. So we'll work on coming back to you with some more accurate information, and understand also that every individual municipality is in charge of running their own cases and their own victims. So they'll happen across the region as the cases progress. So
these could be home invasions, attempted sexual assaults, actual sexual assaults. Do we have a number of how many actual rapes we're looking at?
we don't. And I'm not going to disclose any information that either the victims or the assailant would only know, because again, these are long-term investigations. They're fragile in nature, and we're not going to give out any information that only the victim and or the subject would know.
When were you able to determine that they were connected, and how?
There was MOs, characteristics, and some, obviously the DNA, which came later. But there was just some characteristics about the way the crimes were being committed that a lot of our smart detectives in all the region came together and said, yeah, they all sound like the same and look the same. So there are characteristics of the crime.
Has there ever been someone who has targeted so many people? Is this record-setting to have this many victims?
You know, it's pretty egregious. I'm not going to make it a record setting. He's not America's most wanted. He's probably America's most unwanted. And we're glad that he's off the streets. It's pretty egregious. I'll let it go at that. I did no investigation, so I'm not going to give you my commentary on what I think. Go ahead.
So with 35 cases, how many involve actual penetration rate?
I'm not going to get into all those particulars. We're not going to do that.
And even though you can't say what the suspect is saying, is he talking? Is he admitting to anything?
Not given anything that would be pending in court.
Chief, as far as public safety goes, your timeline starts in 2015. Going back, as far as warning people, what are the lessons learned about the different departments talking to each other? When a window is opened on Ann Street in Hammond Park, when a woman chased somebody off in Redford on Main, how do the departments talk to each other? They may seem like isolated incidents, but then how do you talk and connect with them to warn people that this might be one guy?
Yeah, you know, we do have many mutual aid organizations that are set up now. Our Downriver Intelligence, for example, our Fusion Center out of Detroit, and clearly what you said is vitally important that we share information. I can't tell you how many times I've told people in public meetings about that back window that we all leave unlocked to get air in. And I said, just like we do that, the bad guy knows about that. So, you know, we always tell them to lock their doors. We've gone door to door in our community, as many of the other communities have done. We try to warn them without making them fearful to live in their own communities, because we do have relatively safe communities here. And but yeah, the more information we share with our law enforcement partners and our surrounding regional partners, the better and safer the whole area will be.
But early on, do you feel like enough information was being shared department to department to establish something was going on here?
Yeah, we had a standing task force with all these departments in it. Absolutely.
You mentioned that there was DNA evidence in some of these. How many cases of the DNA evidence connect?
I'm not going to get into how many cases. I can just tell you that in some of our 3 cases, we did have some DNA evidence. I'm not going to get into the particulars, and I'll leave the rest of it for the courts and the other agencies.
Yeah, the chief is right in not commenting on the other agencies' investigations. So don't want him to seem like he's being vague. He's doing the right thing and not commenting on the investigation. We only have warrants so far, 2 from Redford and 1 from Garden City. We're expecting many more.
From a public safety standpoint, is there something the public can learn? What made the difference for him when he was taking it to another level versus a home invasion, an attempted assault, and an assault? Is there anything that people can learn in terms of protecting themselves?
People need to be vigilant. Individuals have to decide when it's in your best interest to fight, scream, and when it's not. I think that the most important thing for me would be to report anything in a way of an intrusion in your backyard or any type of crime, no matter how small you think it is, and let us figure out whether it belongs to some other, other crime or not. Oftentimes, people will not report things that they think are, inconsequential. And that wasn't the case with the one city that gave us the video. I mean, it wasn't the case. It was very minor, but somebody still had the presence to report it, and that was the break we needed in the case. So report to your local police anytime you feel that anybody's messed with your house, any type of intrusion, gates open, garage doors open, even if nothing is missing, report it.
Chief, people are asking, why aren't we seeing him? Can you explain that?
Why are we not?
Why are we not?
Again, identification over a long period of time, traumatized witnesses. We don't want to taint any future identification that can happen with these ongoing cases. And let me put it to you this way. The last thing that would do us any good is if somebody identifies an individual after they see him on television. And the last thing, I'm sure that, and I'm not going to speak for the prosecutor, but being on the prosecution side, the last question I would want a victim to be asked is, did you identify this perp after you saw him on television? So for that case, I would say that it'd be in the best interest to let the investigators reach out to every victim, try to see what type of identification we can get, and in due time you'll get a good look at him. And some of you have been very great in not showing him, and I appreciate that.
Will, going forward, all of this, how are the cases being handled going forward with other cases?
We're working on our three.
I am here really to show my incredible support for the work that's been done in these cases. We've been involved for almost a year now in one way, shape, form, or fashion. So this is incredible, incredible police work, and that's why I wanted to be here to show my support. We wait for each jurisdiction, and there are many here, to bring us their information, their warrant requests. And once we are able to make a determination, a charging decision, or not make one, we'll announce it. But again, we're not going to comment on any jurisdiction, including Dearborn's, who hasn't brought us their warrant package yet. And so it's certainly a very good suspect, an alleged suspect. And again, we have only received warrant packages from Garden City and Redford, and we may even have more from those jurisdictions. So for our standpoint, once they have completed their investigation, waited for all the forensic, the tests, everything that should be put together in a well-oiled investigation like this process has been, we'll make our charging decisions. And generally for an investigation like this, where there has been such a good and cooperative investigation, we can make a lot sooner than we can in some cases where we have to have more work done. So we wait for all the evidence to come in, then we make the charging decision one way or the other. We'll release that then to the press, but in this case, we will not release a picture or a mugshot because of the concerns that we have regarding investigations.
So has he only then been charged in Garden City at this point? Has he appeared in court in Redford, or is that?
I did not check before I came whether we have continued to issue warrants on the other two yet. But Garden City, certainly you all know that that has been issued. Okay, thank you.
All right, with that, I think we appreciate you being here. Again, all the members of our task force, if you want to talk to them individually, they'll be available. Lieutenant Biggs is available. Do you have one last question, sir?
I mean, just being that all the parties are here involved in the Janet Wilson shooting, can we get an update on where that stands?
You know what I'm going to say. I don't give any updates until we're completed with our investigation. We're waiting on information outside our control. When we receive the information that we need to be able to make a charging decision one way or the other, we will certainly let you all know.
Okay, thank you.